In today's Leeds news, Rodon point proven, good week for Gabi. Beckford highlights Nmecha work. Ampadu's future seems locked, and rumour mill stories on Geertruida and Monga. Hey everyone, welcome to Leeds View for Wednesday the 13th of May with your Leeds United news. I hope you've all had a really good week so far. We did get the podcast out last night. Apologies to anyone who listens to the audio for whatever reason last night. An audio file that I thought had been deleted had been uploaded instead of the correct one. That has been fixed this morning. So if you do want last night's podcast on the audio platforms, that is now available and has been re-uploaded. You'll see with a re-upload comment on the title, so you can check that out if you want to. I had a bit of a chat about the game of the weekend, the controversies in the game as well the other night, and look ahead to the weekend as well and who's going to be involved in the relegation scrap. Leeds will still have something to say about who goes down from the Premier League this season with West Ham on the final day of the season, but a bit more ground to cover on that. But you can check that out if you want to. And I also just wanted to say massive thank you to all the new subscribers over the last couple of days. Great to see you here. And if you want to support the channel, if you watch every day, you can help us out by subscribing and becoming a long-time part of the channel. We'll move on. We'll start off with today's Leeds news. And we'll start off with Joe Rodon. Leeds centre-back Joe Rodon spoke to Isaac Johnson in Leeds Live after the weekend's matches about fulfilling his Leeds United goal and having a bit of a point to prove coming into this season. It must feel like a real season of vindication and making the right decision when Joe Rodon made that decision to leave Spurs, drop down a division and join Leeds United on loan initially. Then he stayed around. He even did the photo shoot during his loan season. He was adamant he was coming back to the club, but he now sits in a safe side in the Premier League in Leeds United, while his former side, Spurs below Leeds, are still scrapping for their safety in the Premier League. So it must feel like his decision to back himself has been vindicated. But as usual with Joe, during any interview, there's always room for improvement, and it's one of the attributes that I like so much about Joe Rodon. Fairly level-headed, sees the good and the bad, the work that's still needed as well as the positives that are there as well, plays both sides of the defences quite well. But speaking to Leeds Live, he had the following to say. I think there's obviously a little bit of frustration with the slight setbacks with my ankle, but I think I've been stable. I've enjoyed it a lot. Obviously, we have changed system, played completely different positions, but I think that that's something that I can and I have added to my game. I've been here for 3 years now, and I think when I came to this club, that is what I wanted to do. This is what we set out to do. He was also speaking about the perceptions that people had about Leeds heading into the game against Spurs at the weekend, with Leeds being safe in the Premier League. Were they on the beach? Was the foot off the gas? We all know what happened in that game, and it's very unlikely to be the case for the rest of the season. But he had a few thoughts on that, and he said the following. This group was really competitive. We're professionals. I think you've seen that we don't roll over for no one. What goes on the training ground, the manager always keeps it competitive. We're all professionals, and we want to win. We go into every game wanting to win, and that's the main thing, and that has to be the mindset. Again, he's just been fantastic for Leeds again this season. 2 absolute standout seasons in the Championship for Leeds. He's kind of quietly gone about his job this year and become Mr. Consistent. He's one of my favourite players. I think if you look at that squad and you look what epitomises being a Leeds United player, he's one of a few in that squad that absolutely get it and epitomise everything about being a Leeds United player and side before self. And for me, he's just been massive for Leeds since they brought him in. Probably one of the best signings that the ownership have made so far. So yeah, he's been great this season again for Leeds United. Gets to celebrate a very smart decision, a long decision, but a smart decision becoming to Leeds and leaving Spurs. We'll move on. Speaking of smart decisions and smart acquisitions, Gabby Goodmonson has had some milestones to celebrate this week, and he might be out injured right now, but no doubt he is enjoying the pressure being relieved like the rest of the squad with Leeds United getting another season in the Premier League. But he's had some good news this week. He's been picked as part of Sweden's national side for this summer's World Cup, and on top of that, he will receive the Leeds United Supporters Trust Player of the Year award before the game at Brighton and Ellen Road this Sunday. Gabi won the Paul Madeley Player of the Year award from the Leeds United Supporters Trust with 40% of the Trust members' votes, and it'll be a nice moment before the game against Brighton this weekend. He's again another player who's had a very strong season for Leeds United. He's adapted from fullback to wingback pretty easily and adapted to life in the Premier League very seamlessly. So yeah, good season for Gabi Goodmonson and a very nice week for him to cap it all off. Let's move on. Lucas Nmecha's played an important part this season. He's deputised for the most part for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, but he has made an impact in certain games this season when he has been called upon. He got our first goal back in the Premier League with his penalty against Everton at the start of the season. He's had some important moments this year. And again, when you look at it, he cost Leeds absolutely nothing in the summer. So he's proven to be a very useful member of Daniel Farke's squad this year. But Former Leeds United striker and number 9 Jermaine Beckford has been talking about the more defensive aspects of his game and the work that he's put in this season off the ball, as well as how Daniel Farke has utilised him over the course of this season and how effective he has been. And speaking to LUTV, Jermaine Beckford had the following to say about Lucas Nmecha. Lucas Nmecha, we said it multiple times while the game was going on. I can't believe how good he is defensively. Look at how much he is tracking back. Whoever he was up against, whichever side he was on, he was winning every single ball, making every single pass. Nmecha has, from an attacking perspective, the best goal per minute ratio of the Leeds United strikers this season. He obviously played a lot less minutes than anybody else. So when you go goal against minute, that's where he stacks up. But from a defensive perspective against Spurs, he won 7 ground duels, 7 aerial duels, had 1 ball recovery and 3 clearances and 6 defensive actions overall in the short amount of time he was on the pitch against Tottenham Hotspur. And over this season, he's won 40% of his ground duels and 39% of his aerial duels. He's won more ground duels than his fellow striker Dominic Calvert-Lewin, but Calvert-Lewin has got that 1% more wins in the aerial duel category. But when you put the two of them together and you look at them from an attacking perspective, 21 goal contributions from 2 players that cost Leeds a combined total of 0 this summer. It has been a fantastic return and 2 very, very smart acquisitions for Leeds United. Not bad when you're doing it on the cheap. So well done to both of them this season. Let's move on. Well, we're dishing out praise for players this season. We may as well talk about one of the most impactful players this year, and it's Ethan Ampadu. And he's had a fine season for Leeds United. Daniel Farke has described him multiple times this year as the best central defensive midfielder in the Premier League. That sentiment is now being shared across most of the pundits in the Premier League over the last week or so. And with Leeds heading into the summer, Ampadu heads into the final year of his current Leeds United contract. And it does seem like it's a priority for Leeds to try and get him locked down this summer or as quickly as they can, especially considering there was a huge amount of noise around clubs floating around and interest in him. Central defensive midfielders, very good ones, are few and far between. They are very much at a premium right now. So Leeds need to make sure that they've got one of the best ones, make sure to hang on to him going into the summer. But Daniel Farke's comments after the games this week might give an indication as to what he plans. And we might see Ethan Ampadu's contract get locked down a little bit sooner than the end of the season. And speaking after the match, he did say this about Ethan Ampadu. You know how much I think about him, and everyone can read between the lines and know what I think about this topic. I won't speak about the future, and I won't speak about what will happen in the summer. Right now, it's confirmed, and I promise you, in the next press conference, or whenever you ask me that question, I will give you detail. But don't be too angry with me straight after a game. So the next press conference, I think, is going to be scheduled for Thursday. There's nothing scheduled at the time of recording. Fingers crossed somebody asks him that question and we get some detail there. A lot of Leeds work was set to happen as soon as the safety or guaranteed safety in the Premier League was confirmed. Leeds will get moving on. There's a couple of contracts that are winding down next year that need to be sorted out so they don't fall into that bracket of risking players leaving for nothing next summer. So it's going to be an interesting one. Who stays, who goes, who to capitalise on, and who they decide to lock down for a longer period of time. But it's an important summer. Ethan Ampadu's been fantastic for Leeds this year. Leeds need to make sure that he is locked down on a longer term contract coming into his prime years as soon as they possibly can. But you just get the impression that he's not exactly looking or edging for a move away from the club. The way he speaks about Leeds, the way he speaks about the attitude that's needed from players to play for Leeds United, how important the shirt is playing for Leeds United. He seems completely bought into the culture at Leeds United right now, so I don't see him going anywhere anytime soon. Thank God for that, because he's been brilliant this year. Let's get into some rumour mill territory. As always with the rumour mill stories, take it with a pinch of salt. Nothing's confirmed, nothing's real until they turn up in a Leeds United shirt. But we'll start off with one, and I would say this falls very healthily into the pinch of salt territory. It comes from Graham Bailey, and he claims that Leeds United are amongst several clubs who will be battling for Sunderland loanee Lutsharel Geertruida this summer as his loan at Sunderland finishes and he heads back to Red Bull Leipzig. He's been very good for Sunderland this year in his first season. Liverpool tried to nip in and try and buy him in January. That didn't happen, and they're going in a different direction coming into this summer. But there is said to be some interest in the player. Now, the complicated factor on this is Sunderland do have an option of £20 million to buy the player. For that option to kick in, that player, the selling club and the buying club all have to agree on the option. If that happens, off he goes to Sunderland for another season. We'll have to spend some money on him this time around. If it doesn't happen, then he becomes available and we'll see what happens. But Geertruida is a right wing back. He can also play as a left wing back as well. Leeds will likely look for another full back this summer to make sure they've got enough cover right and left back. Ideally, they need a left footer or a left wing back if they can get to give Gabi some support on that side. But James Justin can comfortably play on the left-hand side and has played more on the left in his career than he has on the right. So maybe bringing in another player who can do both gives them a bit more flexibility. But Aston Villa, Everton, Spurs, and Crystal Palace are all said to be interested in Geertruida. But they do say, or Greg Bailey does claim, though, that the connection between Leeds United and Red Bull might help Leeds in this situation. And that's yet to really materialise in any transfers that Leeds have been interested in since Red Bull got involved with the club. But he does say that the reason Leeds know about the valuation of the player is because the Red Bull people have let the Leeds United people know. We'll see if that ends up being true. It just feels like a really easy link, doesn't it, between Leeds and Red Bull? I don't know how true those connections are. But we'll see. Good player, Geertruida, has had a very good season. We'll add him to the list and we'll see what happens. Another one to talk about is more of a youth signing, or a youth interest, I should say, at this moment in time. And it's Jeremy Monga. And according to Transfer Feed, they say that Leeds United are interested in Leicester City's 16-year-old winger, Jeremy Monga. They also claim that Newcastle United, Arsenal, and Manchester United have all shown interest in the wide man as well. Leicester are expecting exits from the very top of the club all the way to the youth academy this summer, and a complete restructure of what goes on behind the scenes if they drop into League One. The youth category that they've got costs a huge amount of money, and that might be one of the first things that they do. Now, the benefit they have is, I still think it's the case, I could be wrong on this, but I don't believe PSR is in existence in League One. So they've probably got a bit more wiggle room there, but there are lots of players expected to leave Leicester this summer, and the youth players could be leaving in bulk, or at least the more talented ones, and Leeds are still trying to restock the youth academy after losing a couple of players over the last few years and promoting a lot of other players from the 18s up to the under-21s. So we'll keep an eye on it. We'll see, as always. But that will be it for me today, folks. You can check out last night's podcast if you want it. Myself, Jerry McNamee, and Paul, as we looked at the incidents of the game over the weekend and ahead to next week. We will have another podcast out this week with hopefully a special guest to have a look back at the whole season and how Leeds have done overall this year. The good, the bad, the indifferent, all of it put together. But that'll be it for me today. You can subscribe to the channel if you want to. And outside that, I'll talk to you soon. See you later. Bye.